I'm thinking to myself, like, I never met a more guilty motherfucker in my life. Right. Like, that sound exactly like what I would do if I was sitting in the box and I knew I just killed somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, Sarge, you got, like, talk to him. Get down to the bottom of it. But I'm like, I know you don't think I'm coming back to get him.
Right. That shit, yo.
So, it was crazy, though. What's up, bro?
Chilling, man.
Chilling?
Yeah.
That's what's up, my man V Zilla, bro. Thank you for coming, man. I appreciate this.
Where's
man.
the hand clap shit? You got one of those?
Oh, you really want that? You want the hand clap? Don't get it fucked up.
V Zilla.
Don't get it fucked up. Hey, there it is. There it is.
You can hear it.
I can hear it. You can't hear it.
Bet.
Yeah, there you go. This V Zilla's applause, y'all.
Thank you.
Well deserved, as a matter of fact. My man. Yo, bro. I miss you, man.
Yeah, it's like the 4th time I've seen you, and I've been here for like 2 years.
Has it been 2 years already?
Yeah, October was 2 years.
God damn. So how do you, like, you feel all soft pretzels and cheesesteaked up? You feel like a Philadelphian or what?
Nah, man. I got rid of that soft pretzel and cheesesteak shit. Like, after the first year, I was done.
Got it all out your system, all the water rice and the soft pretzels.
The diabetes. Yo.
So here's something I always wanted to know, because I haven't had the pleasure of visiting Houston, Texas.
All right.
Or what's left of it. Was it just all fire and shit?
Nah, man.
I haven't had the opportunity to visit Houston, Texas. What would you say is like the main difference between Houston and Philly?
Manners.
Fuck you mean manners, yo?
Manners,
what you
man.
mean?
Like, I don't know. Like, to me, that was the first noticeable. But, then again, I've been privy to the East Coast forever. Right. So, like, I've been not so much in Philadelphia, like New York, places, on the East Coast where, you're used to those mannerisms being not like down south. But yeah, I think overall, man, like the biggest difference and in space, like space, you can stick Philadelphia inside of Houston.
Yeah, I know. I know that's a big difference.
But at the same time, it's really just the way that people are, man. Like, I still, like, in 2 years, like, now I'm driving like, hey, fuck out the way, dickhead. Like, I'm picking up your shit.
Yeah.
Like, so
that's wild.
But the problem is that it's not a problem, but I just noticed that, man. Like, you hold a door open for somebody here, and they think something wrong.
Yeah, you just hold the door. Yeah,
like, I'm like, yo,
door.
I'm just holding the door.
Yeah.
So manners, that's the biggest thing. And then secondly would be, I understand like why crime and violence and shit is the way it is, because everyone is on top of each other here. Like,
you think that's
I think like that has
a factor, really?
I think that's a big fucking factor. Like, we don't have anything back in Houston that remotely resembles a row home.
Yo, that's crazy.
Projects maybe, but they look more like tenement buildings. More how they would be like in, like, how the project buildings are in New York, more like they look like apartment complexes that are just like fucking the futuristic fucking road warrior wasteland shit. That's how it would look back home.
Okay.
But even in your grimy neighborhoods, no matter how shitty they are, you still got your front yard, backyard, and a little space between you and your neighbor.
I got you.
You can't just open your door and scream at your neighbor like you can't hear it. And then the difference is like you
and your neighbor share a walkway and shit. Yeah.
Share a wall basically.
Yeah.
And no disrespect. I mean, those neighborhoods, they do change. Like, when you go from maybe the northeast to the north, you see the big difference. Or you move into Germantown, or you're in the Alany area. Like, you see these subtle changes, but it seems like they get closer and closer to each other. Pretty soon, you're not just sharing.
It don't just seem like it.
Yeah. You're not sharing like a little stoop or whatever. Like, now you got one whole porch that's connected to the next. So after a while, that would seem like if somebody was on my top that whole time, I'd be like upset.
That's
too.
great.
Like,
So what is the crime rate like in Houston? Like,
Houston has a pretty good. It's not that it's good, but it's got a pretty high like crime rate, pretty good murder rate.
Okay.
We don't contend with like the Chicagos of the world, but I would say we were somewhere maybe probably still in the top 10. You
really?
know? Yeah, I mean it gets wild.
Did they do First 48 down there?
Yeah, the sheriff's department was always. I can't think of his name. He got in trouble now. I think Sergeant Clopton or whatever his name was, the little light-skinned New Orleans-looking boy. Like, he got in trouble. He got all that airtime and then started doing some shady shit on the side, man. Fucking with witnesses and whatnot. Like, female witnesses and doing wild shit.
I don't understand how these boys get themselves in trouble like that, man.
But the bigger jurisdictions are like that. You got Houston Police Department Harris County Sheriff's deputies.
Okay.
You got constables. You know what I'm saying? They all patrol different.
There's a lot more. I'm noticing that down south, that law enforcement tends to be more like there's way more agencies in like working in more close proximity. Like here in Philly is just Philly. Even our sheriffs don't really like leave the courthouse.
It's funny that the respect factor definitely is different. Like, and you would think it's law enforcement. Well, you know, however much respect they can garner at this moment.
Yeah, whatever there is.
There's still back home there really is. Like, you see the HPD, you think one way. You see the sheriff's deputies that get out with the cowboy hats and the sunglasses, and you might look twice. Like, fuck. HPD pull you over, you ready to cuss him out. Sheriff's deputy pull you over, you more like
none of that.
Your hands off the steering wheel, like you sitting back, like, you know. It's just certain things that you learn.
Even in today's climate, like with the way people treat police now, like there's still.
I think it'd probably be even more. You still got a big level of disrespect. A disconnect is what it is.
Okay.
You know, especially in your minority neighborhoods, and they're smart. They'll put minority cops to patrol minority neighborhoods, but then them cops will start forgetting that they are Mexican too, or black too, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, now they're above, and then you got some that do play a very level playing field, that are out playing with the kids and trying to talk to them, and so, you know, man, it's like with everything in the world, you got this even off-kilter balance. Like, sometimes it's legit and sometimes it's not, and who the fuck in this world is really, like,
that's crazy.
Who do you trust?
What would you say is the biggest difference as far as like the hip hop scene here and down there?
It's the fucking same. They don't support, like,
no.
You know, man, let me just say, man, like, you know, Houston is you know, it was at one point in time a melting pot. Like, you had, like, you know, a bunch of, you know, different styles that were coming in. I mean, I always tell this story because they automatically assume I'm from the East Coast already, just because of how I've been my entire life.
Okay.
Like, you know, and I had to explain to them, like, well, yo, I was a Crush Groove kid. Like, I grew up in the 80s. Like, you know, I went to the Fresh Fest. Like, we didn't have Southern music, you know, at the time that I was, you know, 8, 9,
really
10 years old.
Yeah.
You didn't really have that first wave until the Ghetto Boys hit. And even then, they weren't like your typical Southern sounding.
And you're a teenager pretty much by then.
No, I'm not that old.
No?
You're right. No. I was young teen by the time 87. By the time they hit 88. But then when that initial, like, first wave of down south music came, like the UGKs, and, you know, everybody was kind of on that, and then, like, before the Paul Walls and the Chameleonaires and all of that, like, you really had a very structured sound that started to come out of there. Like, UGK really broke it wide open for everybody. As soon as they heard, like, Pimp C's voice, everybody in the H was like, yo, like, that was it. But, you know, for a kid like me, by that time, you're talking, like, I had already, that's like 94, 95, 96 area. I had already been listening to the EPMDs and then the Redmans and then the Nas's are starting to come up. So my focus was here, not so much towards the South. So I never developed the draw. I was never like, man, coming down, baby. Like, it was never me, man.
Because I almost feel like you got to do it on purpose.
I do.
Yeah.
It was so funny. Like, I would go back home and talk, and I'd be in circles of, like, local rappers, and it was so funny because they always be like, don't worry, man, Zilla from that East Coast, man. he on that he that East Coast style, and I was like, I get it. Like, that's how
but you spent time in New York growing up, right?
Yeah, well, you know, when I first started doing music and touring, I spent time, like, you know, and really hitting cities. I mean, I spent time overseas and doing all kinds of just crazy stuff. But I think it was developing that ear, man. Like, it's almost like when you're a kid. I always use it as an example. I mean, you take a white kid and he grows up in a black neighborhood. How do you think he's going to speak? Like,
right.
It's only evident that that's how he's going to be. You start to become a product of your environment. And I think that I was so, like, embedded in the hip hop at that time that everything had to be like a yo or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? You just start taking these characteristics. You listen to enough of anybody and you're going to start developing.
You're going to pick it up. Absolutely.
It's coding. Like, you're learning how to code, like, what you're around. But you got to be careful that, you know, you don't just start coding for everything. You know?
Now, is Houston as confused as, like, some places in the Midwest? Like, I went to school in Pittsburgh, right?
Okay.
And I spent a lot of time around cats from, like, Ohio.
Yeah.
And even, like, Chicago.
Right.
They all came down into that area. And they were, like, the most confused human beings I've ever met in my life, right? Because they would talk like they was from down south.
Right.
Or something like that. But they kind of dressed like they was from the East Coast.
Nah, man.
But, like, a couple years ago.
I think, you know, and that's funny that you say that because I think originally, like there was a lot of like East Coast artists, like I would say more New York area, Midwest, that started to develop that Southern style of like spitting.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like the ASAP Rockies and all of that, or the Bobby Smurda kids that are coming out that were first doing this like very Southern influence type of style, and being that they're from like Bronx or BK or Harlem, you would never expect that sound to come from there. Like, so to me, it seemed like they got confused. But then again, you know, that's you know, they're just the youngsters got a better grip of the game. They just started kind of following the trend. Like they knew that they could probably spit in their heart, but that's not what was going to pay the bills. That's not what was going to garner the attention, get the YouTube views. So you switch. I mean, Houston is very. Them boys, they'll keep it 100 all day, 10 toes down. Like that's it's all day. Like,
they don't talk like they from nowhere else. They don't imitate anybody else.
Houston, you love it. It makes, you know, funny. The funny thing is, and this is gonna sound incredibly funny, I don't sound like that at all. Even when I go back home, it doesn't switch to that. Like you have certain phrases that I use that might come up. Things that I might say that you can definitely tell have a Southern tinge to it, but. Them boys there keep it 100 all day. They let you know it is H time, going down. Like it's, no, it's time. Like that's it. But they've been official with it for a long time. There's kids that I've known when they were like 14, 15 years old, and now they're like 26, 27, and they don't skip a beat in the way that they speak. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
crazy.
From Hispanic, from Latino kids to black kids, like even the white boys that grew up in the hood, it's Ace time, baby, all day. Now I'm talking about.
It's always been like, I think East Coast rappers have always adopted like Southern slang and so like they've always imitated, but I can't say that that's been reciprocal. Like you don't really catch rappers from down south so much, like
trying to be East Coast.
That's
what kind of put me in a large contingency of like my friends. Like we would kind of get lumped into like the Brooklyn, Texas crew. Like we were the kids that, even though technically it never really got that cold, it got cold in Houston. Like you got cold months. Don't get it twisted. It'll average like, you know, 40s and 30s, like, you know, during certain parts of the winter for a good little stretch. But we were the ones that were wearing the Timbs. And my boy Nix, shout out my boy Nix. But my boy Nix didn't go nowhere without the butters. Like he had them. He had to have them.
That's
like,
crazy.
But here we are, like we're wearing
feet down there, man.
We wearing like gooses, and you know we were always bubble goose down. We went through every one of those trends, and you can tell right away that the H-Town contingency would be like, oh, them boys, like them boys is different, you know, like, but at the same time, like that's probably as close as we got, like in terms of like emulating anything. Like we love the style, you love what it was. So like when Dipset was popping, I had a bunch of young boys who was like Dipsetting it out though, you know what I mean? They were talking about piffing and doing all of this, and you're like, yo, like word. And then like you know, Wu-Tang, like during my time when they popped up, like we was all camouflage, like everywhere we went, like it just, you know, as with anything, you take on like what that feels. You just want to feel it. That's
it had to make you stand out down there. I almost made this. I was actually supposed to move to Atlanta at one point in the early 2000s. Like shortly after the Snakes, we lost our deal with Tommy Boy. I had a cousin who was living in Atlanta, and that was when like the down south, it was starting to blow up. And I was kind of like, yo, if I went down there, I could probably go down there and tear some ass. And get me a deal. And, you know, one thing led to another. I never got to make the move. But I can see how it would make you stand out. That subtle difference. Like you are from here. Your roots are here and so forth. But with that external influence, you actually can create a genre of music down there. You know, I think that's the toughest part, man, is that, you know, even to this day, you know, I still feel like an incredible sense of pride. Like even with young artists that come out, there's still artists back home that I check for that do their thing, that have never, or they may have been like spitters at one point in time, like earlier in their career, because they realized like when they were younger, like they wanted to be like, they were in the battle scene, they were doing whatever, they wanted to be that cat that just had bars. But as times have changed, they changed with the music, and now they're like knee deep into the trap, everything that's going on, trap type music, you know, and they got that bounce, but
it's funny because I know some of these cats and I'm like, damn, I remember when you first started, dog, you was here and now you're here. But I ain't mad at them, and I still respect a lot of them that do that, man.
I mean, it takes a certain level of security in yourself in order to be able to make that sort of transition.
You know, you never want to be that. You know, I don't know, man. I know that I'm older now, and you know, my thought process about music is a little different. But I still listen to like everything, and I put this on my mama and everybody else. Like, I'll still get in the lab and be a problem for anybody over any beat on any day of the week because of the fact that I still love music like that. Finding my motivation again and my mojo is like
that's
another
thing. Story. Yeah.
But you still love it to the point, like, even like with the new kids, like Baby and the Baby, like the two different.
There's two babies.
Yeah, there's two babies, but they're dope in their own right because they remind me of old Juvenile, Cash Money when they first started, like the whole New Orleans type slang, way down south type slang, but with a new twist. They're more lyrical. They're more. The patterns are a bit more defined.
Are they lyrical? See, now here's where I have to confess, I'm out of the loop. I don't get down. Like I don't get down with the new hip hop. Like I'm so far removed.
Well, I say
like,
more
I find
lyrical.
new music by mistake.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I find the new stuff by mistake. Like I really gotta like stumble upon it.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like. I don't know. I still listen to it on a daily basis because I'm one of them Spotify heads, man. I'm always, whenever shit new pops up, I'll give it a chance. I'll never want to say, like, that shit is whack.
Right.
If I don't like something from the rip, I don't like it. Like, I don't like G-Eazy from the rip. Fuck that dude. Like, it is what it is. Like,
see, I don't know. I don't even know if it's.
That was just an example. I mean, because I don't like the appropriating of music by certain artists. It just is what it is.
I don't necessarily, like, object to new music.
Right.
I genuinely don't listen to music as often as I used to.
Right.
Like I listen to music at the gym.
Right.
But I don't even like drive around the music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to come across new stuff because I go in the gym, put on the Eminem show, and that's that.
You be good with it, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's the beauty about being able to go back though, man. Like, and then back to the point about Baby and the Baby or whatever. While it does have those tinges of like what I would say like a young Juvenile, a young Cash Money, because the way that they're bouncing on the track, I'm not gonna say that they're like Royce with the lyrics. You know what I mean? Okay. But I will say that the staccato, the cadence, the delivery is definitely 2020 and not Cash Money taking over for the 2000s. Like it's not then.
I got you.
But there's tinges of it, so it makes you realize that while they may not have studied that style, they took a little piece. Like I think it was years ago, man. I did a couple shows in Texas with Master Ace when he was doing Disposable Arts, doing the Disposable Arts album.
Okay.
And, just seeing the way him and Strick were on stage, there's a lot of things that I picked up just from their show. Like their engagement with the crowd, the call and response, making sure that Strick was always on point with, Ace's ad-libs. But not only that, Strick was a lyricist in his own right. So you start to take little bit. So I remember right after that, like maybe next show that I had a couple of weeks later, I took an idea there, flipped it, and it worked to my advantage. And I think as artists, that's kind of what you do, man. You grab pieces of it. And I would like to think that some of the new school cats that are out actually paid attention to the genre as years went on. Like some will just straight out say, I never heard a song, so he's an old head, whatever the fuck. But there's got to be some that
there's
be
an
like
element of antagonistic.
Yeah.
Of antagonism that has to be, that I noticed that the newer generation, they kind of feed off of that. They almost use that to market themselves.
Well, it's smart for them. It's smart for them because you're never going to get them to wholeheartedly admit that their genre is second. So it's going to be second or third down the line to what it is that we've experienced. And let me explain why. Very simply, it's not to say that there isn't talented kids. It's not to say that there aren't records that rock the party and you still got, like records that get all kind of recognition and 1 million views or whatever the fuck it may be.
Right.
But the fact that it all sounds the same. That's
so
their only downfall. Like really one of their biggest downfalls is that the majority of these records are all emulations of something else. whether they took Future style and threw a little bit of this in there and a little bit of 2 Chainz in it, and then all of a sudden you got so-and-so who's ever popping. Or they, you listen to like a lot of early Drake and, a little bit of The Weeknd and a little bit of this, and then all of a sudden you got Migos. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. And that, again, it's not like trying to be disrespectful. That's saying that through the course of this, it's taking little bits and pieces of things that were right before them and them trying to improve upon it. But instead of doing that, it just all comes out the same. So here we are now, 20 years removed from, whatever it may be, Illmatic, Shook Ones, you name it. And we can still talk about, like, yo, if the record comes on while you're at Johnny Brenda's or something during one of their throwback parties.
You know exactly who that is that's coming on.
You know what's going to occur, too. And even if it's not your thought process, your head is automatically, you can be in a conversation and stop and give that look like, yo, they did that. But I don't think 20 years from now you're going to do that to a Young Thug record. And again, no disrespect, but I can't see myself, or whoever for that matter, my young bulls that I'll be around for that matter, be like 20 years from now, like that.
It's not going to draw the same emotional response.
That's the only difference, man. I like the fact that you got creative kids. I was feeling Mac Miller's new project, even though I know that it was thrown together, and God bless the dead man, but to see that he was about to turn the corner, like you could tell he didn't give a shit anymore. Like he was like, I'm just gonna get in here, like what we would do as artists.
And be an artist.
I mean, you know how many songs I got in my lab that are not like boom bap straight off the block, like yo, like.
Well, I know, I know.
I mean, I got bachata records, dog, that I've written and recorded. I got R&B records. I've shown you, like, and I tell you straight up from the rip, I can't sing them like that.
Yeah, you say
it's
that.
It's more for like just to get it out of my system, because I may have felt like doing some Dream shit or some Weeknd shit or some Michael Jackson shit.
I'll say this: you don't give yourself nearly as much credit as you deserve. Did you sing Did you sing or rap first?
Well, me and my brother Mike, when we were younger, we always used to do like, the shit in front of your family. Like we would learn, like we really like doo-wop shit. We were growing up, I had that weird family that everybody was everything. Okay. My uncles were metalheads and rockheads, what we now consider classic rock or metal.
Okay.
My grandparents were all like Spanish, Tejano salsa music. My mom was fucking Donna Summer, you know what I mean, disco shit. And my dad was like fucking John Deere tractor riding, cowboy hat, Wrangler, roper, boot wearing Texican to the fullest. So country. Believe it or not, for me, like from 1999, because I have a cutoff point for country music.
I got you.
From 99 back, ain't nothing I'll go head to head with
anybody.
Country
music got real pop after that.
Yeah.
There's a heavy pop influence.
I love the ballads, man, because believe it or not, like they told the stories.
Yeah, Dolly Parton.
Willie Nelson. Conway Twitty, George Strait, who's the king, like, next to all the older ones before him.
That's legit, because it's genuinely musical. Yeah. It's genuinely musical.
They
it's
said
instrumental, shit. And they actually sang and shit. Like,
well, it resonated with you. It was more like rappers. I mean, why does the old school music, music appeal to us? Is because there was a message in that lyricism.
Absolutely.
There was a realness. There was a sharpness. There was this street that made you feel like, my uncle got murdered when I was 17. So right around the time, Redman's album, What the Album was popping. Wu-Tang hadn't really jumped off yet, but they were kind of bubbling underneath that surface. But, with the Redmans coming out, then all this really like real street shit. Then the Chronic drops like a year later, and that started picking up like this very violent, volatile. But for kids like me who grew up like in the hood and having to deal with murder when I was like 17, and then my best friend gets murdered like 2 years later, you start to feel like, yo, like this is my life. Like I'm riding around now, almost looking for shit. Like I'm riding around. I had the, I had the old like the Oldsmobile drop with, you know what I'm saying. I was in the Buick Regal, had drop with the rims and the metal flake green, and literally riding around, ball fade, like looking for motherfuckers. So like, what's the problem? With heat under the seat, like. We were living like that boys in the hood shit. Like that wasn't no after school special. We thought we was menace to society. We thought we were old dogs, and we were living like that. And then it's funny because the contrast now, like that's what I mean by like music. Like there was certain country records that would break my heart as a kid because my parents divorced early. So I would hear certain songs about love and heartbreak, and I would look over at my old man, and for the briefest of moments as a kid, it made me wonder, was he thinking about my mom at that song or vice versa?
Right.
And even though he'll tell you down the line, he was like, fuck that, he didn't give a shit. My dad kept it real.
Right.
The point is that it made me as a youngster think like, yo, I wonder what they were feeling when they wrote that. I'm thinking that like at 10 years old, 9 years old, like, wow, what was they feeling? So to still have that feeling now that I'm, in my early 40s, like to sit here and be like, fuck, man, I wonder what they were thinking when they wrote that song, man.
I always thought you had a uniquely rich appreciation for music. Like
I love it, man.
Yeah, we all grew up with music in our lives. Yeah. So much so that we became artists and shit. But it's like when you get going, like it's evident, like it's right there on the surface, just how rich you appreciate. And when I hear the different types of musical influences you have around you and your family, it makes sense. Yeah, that like because when you I go to the crib and you'll play a record and it'll be some shit like I've never would have even imagined
I would have did
that you would have did. And it's like I see how. I thought that was like me. I thought I was different in that way, but like you're even more different.
No, man. I mean, maybe that's why our chemistry on records was second to none.
It definitely serves as an explanation. It makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And I think that's the one thing that still gets me hyped. That's how I know that I still got a spark for what it is that I want to do, what it is that I hope to accomplish one day and still get back in and take care of things. To me, this is it's going to be a never-ending story, for what we do when you love music like that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you're right, man. Like there's a lot of times where I just want to do something just to see if I can do it. Then there's certain times where I'll listen to like I might listen to the most cheesiest shit. Like it might be like an Ambrosia record or something. Like, and I listen to the way they put the lyrics down or how they wrote it or how it composed it, and it might give me an idea to do something else. And then there's times where I just hear the subtleties in songs where I can tell an artist borrowed from, and I almost feel like at that moment nobody else hears it. Okay. Like if I listen to a Sam Cooke record and I hear the way he starts riffing on certain parts, then I go and listen to a Journey record and I listen to the way Steve Perry is singing When the Lights Go Down in the City. I'm like, that's Sam Cooke like all day. I don't know if Perry loved Cooke, but it's evident in that moment.
Yeah, you can hear it.
I listen to Wild Horses by the Rolling Stones. That record is very slow tempo, but listen to a Bruno Mars record. I can't think of the song off the rip, but it's written in the same pentameter, same beat, structure, just faster paced, almost the same. I forgot if the song is something about if it'll rain, whatever. It'll Rain, whatever the Bruno Mars record is. Beautiful record, but I could see the subtlety, and it makes me think, well, damn, was he listening to the Rolling Stones before he wrote it?
Is that subconscious?
Right,
or,
subconsciously, because he may have grown up listening to that. And then you got people like Pharrell that just automatically be like, fuck it, I'm going to do a Marvin Gaye.
just go ahead
when
and
I
do
heard
it.
Happy, the first time I heard Happy, musically in my head, even more so before I heard Blurred Lines. When I heard Blurred Lines, I knew where that was going. I'm like, oh, okay. But when I heard Happy, the first thing I thought about was Ain't That Peculiar by Marvin Gaye. Like I hear it. Like,
there's when it comes to pop music, there's you need an element of familiarity.
Oh yeah.
Like it's required. Yeah. In order to make that hook, to catch people and bring them
That's
in.
it, the hook.
But like you said, some people just go ahead and do it.
It's like they know.
It's not like
you're not paying homage. It's basically
the
saying, "Oh, I could do that. Watch how I freak it." Like it's almost like you sampled in real time in real life without even trying to hide the sample. Like, but I wasn't mad about the records. They were both hot records. I mean, Pharrell did his thing. I mean, and they had to take care of it down the line. But
it's the shit when you get sued for it.
Well, I wouldn't even. I think it was a little excessive though, too, man. Regardless of what people say about ripping off the records,
again,
everything's borrowed, man, in some way, shape, or form.
I think it goes back to. Like I said about the new hip hop artists and that slight bit of antagonism that they gotta have. It's almost like, well, every now and then I gotta put out a record that's gonna ruffle some feathers. Yeah. And that might have been the one.
Right.
Because Pharrell's famous for not sounding like anybody.
Right.
You put on a Neptune's record, it ain't nobody's record but a Neptune's
like
record.
That. Yeah, that's the beauty of certain producers and writers. You knew it. Like you would know. Like they had a signature. The way he would play his chords and keys, you knew that was Pharrell that was doing it. Everyone has a signature if they've developed enough music to allow that to occur. You know when it's a Premier beat or a Premier cut. You know when it's a Timbaland beat or Timbaland has something to do with it. You know when it's a Pharrell record or you know when Jay-Z wrote your lyrics. Right. Everyone has a signature if you have enough material out there to define that line. You know what I'm saying? So
that's crazy.
It's funny, man.
How would you say fatherhood has changed your approach to music?
Doesn't give me a lot of time to.
You gotta write fast. Gotta write fast, bro.
I do a lot of that here, man. Like, but to be honest with you, man, that's a whole nother. Yo, I'm really. Yeah, I'm learning this. It's a touch and go, and not in a bad way, man. It's just there's certain things that I have to become familiar with again. You know, like, and I mean that like. It's almost like I draw inspiration for how I grew up, how I came up. You know, luckily I'm blessed with a fantastic partner, man. Just a great mother, you know, and I got a beautiful stepdaughter who's great. You know what I'm saying?
Danny's the best kid crazy, ever, man. Bro.
Best kid, man. But you start like when it's your child, when this is like my new. I've had previous relationships where I've raised kids, but doing things with a newborn, it's like your flesh and blood, like completely different, man. Like, and not to say that I didn't, I wasn't trying to be the best that I can be in previous relationships. I had genuine love. Right. This is just a different, like, when you're looking at your boy, man. Like, I do a bunch of dumb dad shit right now. Like, I sing him made up songs all the time about changing his diaper, and I talk to him a certain way in stupid voices. I'm infatuated with the kid, like But I also have to understand that, there's things that I still have to become acquainted with, man. Like I have to learn not to close everything off around me as well as I can. I have to develop better patience because right now it's, sometimes he'll start he's in that slapping mode right now, like everything. So the very first time he caught me, like he puts his hand on my face and I didn't really know he was just sizing me up. And then it turned into a crack. And as soon as it did, my reaction was pop right back. I stung his little ass like that. And Dad's looking at me like, did you just? And I'm like, he hit me first. Shit. Self-defense. But in all actuality, man, it's just becoming more patient, man. And I have to be very careful with that line of, and I wasn't doing this at first. At first I was showing so much affection and admiration, about him and his birth and everything that I was kind of closing off the other one. And I should have been more aware of that. Now I've gotten a lot better, like, and I make it a fact to let her know, like, yo, man, I don't love him any more than I love you. Like, absolutely. But you're older, so you're gonna have to catch this heat right now. And when he get older, he gonna catch it in a different way. So don't worry about all that right now.
There's always a fine line, we have a daughter, and we took my niece in almost 2 years ago, and she'll be 14 in a couple of weeks. And there's always a fine line when it comes to the way you show affection and the amount of attention that kids need and the different types of attention that they require, and having to secure, because I noticed with my daughter every couple of months I turn into my daddy. Not just daddy, but my name turns to my daddy. And it's like I kind of have to, like, you could see it coming. Then she starts getting mean and lashing out, and so you gotta kind of like redirect, because the older one requires a different type of attention in a new environment. So you absolutely rest assured it never ends. The learning process and the adjustment, it never ends, but there's nothing in the world more worth it, because you have beautiful kids. Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. And they're a reward in themselves. So it's worth it for the effort. You know what I mean? I mean, you're more than capable. But you do have to be aware of that. That shit ain't going away. I'm real big, man, on like realizing that
it's almost like the scene in Boys in the Hood, like you know where the exes are having dinner. You know, she's talking to Furious, and she's like, you know, what you do ain't no different than what mothers have been doing since the beginning of time. She's like, you know, you're not special, cute, but you're not special. You're not special. And in my head, I kind of feel that, like, you know, me being a good dad, I don't got to go out and promote it. Like, I don't got to hashtag super dad everything I fucking do. Like, I think my kids, you know, my son, as he gets older, he'll realize it. I think my 8-year-old, you know, even though I give a shit, like, she realizes it, like, because I will go above and beyond.
Absolutely.
I'm already auto-programmed to make sure that she's good. You know, I pack her lunch, I get her ready, I drop her off, I pick her up, I joke with her, I have these crazy conversations in the morning, but I'm very blunt in the way that I talk to her, much because, like, her mother is the same way, Des is the same way with Danny. But I don't sugarcoat anything. For an 8-year-old, that's a little difficult, but I guarantee you that we have a pretty bright fucking 8-year-old. Like, and when I say that she's privy to certain things, she already, maybe the 8-year-old shouldn't be privy to, and we might catch flack for the things that she may or may not hear or may know or may can't explain. But guess what? By the time she's 12, she's ready. She knows.
It goes a long way.
Long way.
Because kids need to be more prepared earlier.
Right. Even with serious subject matter, man. Shit that she shouldn't have to worry about. It's almost like we have to make it known without going out in front of incredible detail.
Right.
There's certain things that I catch myself being like, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm going to tell you the best way that I can. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through Z. And then I'm like, do you understand? And she's like, yeah, man, that makes sense.
Nah, Danny's she's a great communicator. Her and Lauren remind me of each other a lot. Yeah. And the way that they communicate is very plain. Yep. And they comprehend well. And I mean, like I said, they understand. Right. But because their level of communication is so high.
I'm not saying it's a surefire way to raise your kids. Listen, man, when I was, you know, back in school, like back in Houston before I came here, you know, I took, you know, 3 child psychology courses, like 3 psychology courses by themselves. There was things I was really trying to get myself in tune with. Like, I needed to know why this worked, why this particular set of people teach this method, but why this method is the one that's tried and true. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then there's the method in the middle where you, as a parent, just kind of got to follow your instinct. Like, I'm not going to follow this child pyramid or what Dr. So-and-so said, but what daddy says is, this is the fucking way we got to do it, because this is how we're going to stick together. This is how this is going to work. Once you develop that and you have a child that understands, then you just kind of take it from there, man. Like, it's so... Fatherhood is definitely doing its thing, man. Like,
I know it takes its toll. You do have your studio up and running, though. What's going on? What's coming out the lab, bro? Because you've been dropping records. You've been dropping records.
I put stuff out,
man. You drop a record every time I drop a record. What's up with that, though? How come every time I SoundCloud, Zilla got a SoundCloud?
This is the Zilla Agenda. Just to remind our listeners, you are now into the Zilla Agenda.
The Zilla Agenda.
I'm gonna fucking Photoshop that. I mean, in all honesty, man, I haven't put out with the frequency that I was. My lab is up and running. I've been doing, you know, some behind the scenes shit. You know, I mix records. Like, I mix king size and I master king sizes records. Okay. You know, I still got yours in the wing.
Yeah, you know, it's whatever. But I'm here.
You know, and then, you know, Planetary from Outer Space, like, you know, his sons, they're both incredibly talented, man. All 3 of them are talented. Man. But, you know, you got, you know, Element and King Charisma, you know.
Element keep us busy. You mixing his records, I'm shooting his videos.
Well, and he mixes his own stuff. He does an incredible job. This kid, like, is just, you know, he's going to a really good school, man, in regards to music. Coming up, how his father came up in music and surrounded, and they did a show, you know, a couple weeks back, opening for Elijah the Boy, and they killed it, man. But what made me more proud was they get to the end of the show and then they go over a Mobb Deep beat and went into like actual hip hop mode, and without skipping the beat, both of them slaughtered this shit. I'm just looking at these kids. I was hoping they were gonna pass me the mic, like, just for the brief moment.
Can I put me
in front of all the like the preteens that were there? I was waiting. I kept reaching my hand, like waiting if they was gonna like tag me in or something. I was like, fuck. I mean, nah, but
they are nice though, man. They really are nice.
But between doing those things, man, I already have an idea. My Crown Vic album is the one that I want to work with, and I started out strong, man. I had a Recognize Ali on the first record produced by Johnny Slash, and it was really dope. And I put it out with the intention of going, all right, now I'm in my bag, and then here comes Life.
Yep. The 1-2 punch.
The fucking 1-2 punch rib knockout. I'm taking a knee.
Yeah.
I'm getting a standing 8. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, man. And without going incredibly deep into it, I've been, I'm having to pull myself out of identity crisis, man. I just told Dez the other day, I feel like I lost who I was. And not for a bad reason. It's just that coming from Houston to Philly, that transition, while it's been great and I've learned some things, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love my family we've put together. My life is fine.
Right.
But internally, there's these things that men won't ever come out. You're never going to come out and say it. You're never going to come out. I usually do this through a record. This is when I do take the time to put out a poignant record that something is bothering me.
And not having that outlet.
Yeah. And when you don't, and I do have the outlet to record, but I don't have either the drive, the want, or the time to really just sit in my bag and be like, I need to get this out right now. And I'm still trying to build that. I'm still trying to take the remnants of what Zilla was and get that killer instinct, but then also learn to realize that dad in life and we're turning a corner, man, where we don't got pension plans and we don't got money in the bank, and we still live incredibly difficult. Understand, this ain't no glorious rapper's life going on here. All of me and my counterparts work. And if you live in Philadelphia, you got more than one hustle. And if you don't, it's because you come from money or you the biggest running the block. You know what I mean? But other than that, man, there's multiple hustles that go on here, man. I work my gig from 8 to 5. I got side gigs. I still run business out of Houston, just to keep
afloat,
just to keep here. But I'm working on it. Des gave me a lot of good ideas, and something she said to me today really resonated. And she's like, you should really, don't forget what that was, who you are, not who you were, but who you are. But who you're becoming. Because maybe that'll help you. I think it's just really the structure, man. You're coming from somebody who was always positive and ready to go because I was feeding my entire being. I was going to school in the morning. I was coming home and I was printing, so I was making my money. And then I'm going to the gym every night. Me and my man Nick's getting it in. So I'm feeding my mind, I'm feeding my pockets, and I'm feeding my health. And it's in a constant rotation. And then I go into the lab and you do what we do. When we did Monster and Mr. Arnell, we did that whole record in fucking 12 days, 14 days, man. Took me a little longer to mix it, but I'm talking about the initial.
But as far as recording, we never even spoke.
We had that was based off of, I did a feature. I did the verse for you and Size's record. Then I asked you to do the verse for the chorus for Kill Everything. Then after that, it's let's just do an album. And fuck, it was incredible. I need to put it back up on Spotify. People do ask me all the time, where's the record?
Incredible record.
And we started working on the second one, and I think that I felt like I was cheating you and myself, because even though we already had these skeletons, it didn't
quite feel.
It didn't feel the same way. And even though we might not never be able to recreate that moment, I needed to at least feel close. So coming back around to previous point, I'm working on trying to get that momentum back.
I mean, you've taken on a lot of transition
in the short
in
period
the last couple of years. I mean, geographically, biologically, you know what I mean.
I get homesick.
A lot of transition.
I didn't think that I would. I honestly didn't think that I would. I thought everything, was on the up and up. And listen, man, Dez's family is incredible. They're like my brothers, Size and Plan and Crep and all her family that I see. And that's great, but I just think that sometimes I still need a little outside camaraderie, and I don't have it. You know what I'm saying? I have my man Nick's back home. That's my ride or die. You know what I'm saying? And then you don't have that anymore. Oh, my man Word, you know, who was like my business partner and who I lived with, and I got really close to his family. And then all my brothers and sisters, like, but see, it's just like one of those things where you realize that they all had their lives, man, and I was kind of just floating, you know, the only one without kids that wasn't married, that was kind of freelancing. And I wanted to change, and I embraced it, and I still embrace the change.
Right.
But every now and then you just, you know, I get homesick. I do. I think that's normal. I think, it's going to be normal, you know, until I get back on my pattern, man. Like, you need your mojo back. That's it. Like, your mojo goes missing, man. You got to find it. So
it's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy.
Not at all.
Growth's never going to be easy, and that's what's happening is you're growing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, listen, not for nothing. I think it just sounds strange, man, because you never want to get to that point where you feel like you're up against like some, you know, like these changes. I'm a Taurus, so we're not good with change. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're not really good with change. We get really locked into patterns of how we do things. So I think here I just need to refine that fire. Like, I'm always hype about shit, but motivation and hype is different.
It's
man.
Not the same.
It's not
thing.
the same. Man. Hey. You can hype something up all day, but I need that motivation, man.
All right. Nah, man. Yo, bro, I appreciate you coming through, man. Yeah. This is beautiful, yo.
Yeah.
You don't live that far away, bro. Like,
I know.
It's not going to take you 2 years to get back home, is it?
Nah. It took me like 8 minutes to get here, man.
Hey, man, you got to come back through, yo. Yeah. I appreciate you coming through, bro. It's been beautiful listening to you and learning from you. I feel like I just learned more about you in the last 45 minutes than I have in the last 5 years.
Man, I can talk all day. That's why next week on the Zilla Agenda, we'll talk about crime. Cause I got a lot of thoughts about political, school,
that's what
crime.
We'll do. That's what we'll do. I will. Y'all heard the man. He coming back next week.
I'm gonna be the sidekick. Can I be the sidekick? Everybody got the sidekick.
Everybody got a sidekick until it's the sidekick show. See, I come in here, my cameras is missing and shit. Wait a minute. You know what I mean? But I appreciate you coming through, bro. I love you.
I love you too, man.
And this has been great. We will do this again.
All right.
Listen, y'all. This has been the Arnell Agenda. I don't give a fuck what Zilla say. All right. It's still my show. All right. I appreciate y'all time and attention.
Yeah.
I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. And whatever you do good first. All right.
Word up. Peace.